Real estate investing is no joke. It is all the things. It is exciting, it's terrifying, it's stressful, it's profitable, it's like having a part-time job, and it's also passive. So there's a wide spectrum of things that investing in real estate has, the potential and the downfalls. So in this workshop today, we're going to go over an easy and quick 4-step process to make sure that the properties you might already be invested in are worth it, but also for future properties that you may be interested in buying, make financial sense. So we'll lay everything out, and the only thing that you need is this worksheet, which you can either get directly from me, I'll put it in the comments below, or yes, or you can make your own. So we'll go over this. You can just grab a scrap piece of paper and a calculator. Those are the only 2 things that you need. So the first step is to calculate the income. So the income is going to be things like rent. It's also going to be things like maybe you have a coin-op laundry machine. Maybe you charge for parking or storage. All the things that get deposited into your bank account that you have for revenue go into income. So for this example, I'm going to say that we have a 2-unit and we make $1,000 on the first unit and $1,200 on the second unit. We don't have coin-op or charge for storage or parking, but those are opportunities, but we're not currently charging for them. So the total income is $2,200, okay? So that's the first step, and we're done. The next step is to calculate all the expenses. So we're going to start with expenses that come out automatically. So those are things like your mortgage payment, property taxes. If you pay some expenses either annually or quarterly, you're going to want to find the monthly amount. So we have property taxes, we have insurance. There are some things on this worksheet that you might be able to pass off that expense to your tenants. So I just put insurance in there, which we're not going to pass off to the tenants because they should have their own insurance. Water, utilities like heat and electricity, that's something that's pretty commonly, you get the tenants to sign up for that on their own. In this example, I'm just going to say that we pay for that. The water heater rental. Then there, I put property manager. So if you're going to manage the property on your own, then you don't need to put anything in there. Repairs and maintenance. So now we're moving down to expenses that you need to forecast. So they aren't something you're going to get an invoice for. They aren't something that's the same every month. And it is going to depend on the quality of the building, the age, where it's located, those types of things. So you have to give an estimate. For this example, I'm going to say that it's $100 a month. So for some months, we might spend nothing, and maybe another month we'll spend $300. So I'm just going to budget for $100 a month. The next thing is capital expenditures. So those are expenses that make the property better. So they're more than a repair and a maintenance. They are things like replacing the roof, fixing the steps to the entrance, maybe adding an extra bedroom to one of the units. That's capital expenditures. And you can use either a dollar figure or sometimes a good way to estimate if you aren't quite sure because you don't already own the property. might be a percentage of the rent. So I'm just gonna estimate again $100 for this example. The next line item in the expenses category is vacancies. This is a big one that gets forgotten when I tend to, this is a one that gets forgotten that I tend to see. So vacancies have two types. The first one is planned vacancies. So that's something that's like when my current tenant moves out, I am going to update the kitchen. Or when my current tenant moves out, I'm going to pop in there and just give the whole thing a fresh coat of paint. That's a planned vacancy. And that's something that you are aware of. Okay? Might take a little longer than you thought, but it's still something that you planned. The next type of vacancy is unplanned. And that is when maybe you have tenants living in your rental property and they aren't paying your rent. Or you have tenants that are moving out and you can't seem to find tenants to take their place. So that's an unplanned vacancy, and we're going to budget for that here in the expense step, okay? If you aren't sure, like if you don't have a track record, in Canada we have a website called CMHC. They have vacancy rates based on your geographic location. It's a good rate you can use. Or if you already have the property and you kind of can tell how vacancies have been for you, go ahead and use that. For me, I like using 4% based on where we are and what my experience is. We have been either really lucky or it's just the way that things are here, but the vacancy rate here is quite low. So you can use both the rate, the percentage, or a dollar figure, but you should use something. Never account for no vacancy, because you might not ever plan to have a vacancy, but there may be an unplanned vacancy, like I mentioned before. So what we're going to do is we're just going to total all that up. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 18. I'm just doing it quick, so hopefully I did that right. But so now we have our income, we have all of our expenses, and those are two important numbers: income, expenses, and we're on to step 3. So that's step 1 and step 2 done already. The next step is, how much did it cost you to acquire the property? And the reason that that's important is because from those two numbers that I circled, the 22 and the 1850, we know that the property is positively cash flowing, which is awesome. We also know by approximately how much a month it is positively cash flowing. But if the property costs, let's say $100,000, that might be an excellent deal. If the property is going to cost you $500,000, then that might be a different story. So that's why we now need to look at the acquisition. And so I'm going to go ahead and get out my calculator. Okay. So let's say, for example, in the acquisition spot, you can see that we want to account for things like down payment, closing costs, and renovations. So let's say, for example, our down payment was $36,000. Our closing costs were, let's say, $4,000. And renovations, let's say, didn't need any work, just maybe a fresh coat of paint and some cleaning. So let's budget for $1,000. So that's $41,000. Okay. So you can see we got income, expenses, our total acquisition cost, And now we're moving on to the final step. Okay, so that is the return on investments. And to do that, we are going to take our annual cash flow. So that's going to be the income minus expenses times 12, because that was the monthly amount. So I'm just going to pop on the calculator and say minus 1850. So this property is cash flowing $350 a month, which is $4,200 a year. But it cost us $41,000 just to acquire the property. So you're going to take that $4,200 a year that is put into your pocket and divide it by the outlay of cash that it required to get the property. So in my case, I'm taking this annual cash flow, which is the income minus expenses times 12, and I'm going to divide that amount, the $4,200, by this acquisition number. And my calculator tells me that that is 10.24%. Okay, so the first thing I like about this is that the cash flow is positive. That's the first thing that says, yes, this might be a good deal for you. And then I like double-digit returns. That kind of is like my rule of thumb. I love double-digit returns. So if you would have taken that $41,000 that it took you to purchase the property and put it in your tax-free savings, your RSP, maybe just your bank account, a savings account, put it somewhere, would you have made more or less than this 10.24%? That kind of gives you the boundaries of whether or not this was a smart investment. The caveat here is that this doesn't account for appreciation on your property. So hopefully your property is also not only going to cost you money today, but it's also going to grow in value tomorrow and year after year after year. But it doesn't account for your time. So if you were to have taken that $41,000 and put it in RSP, bank account, whatever, met with your financial advisor, say you have $41,000, here it is, they invested it for you. Now it's off it's not taking up rent in your brain anymore. It's done and it's working for you. Owning real estate is a little bit different. You are wearing a lot of different hats. You're a bookkeeper, you're a relationship builder, you are a marketer, you're a lot of different things. So it's whether or not this number, the 10.24%, is not only worth it for your money, but also worth it for you and your commitment and responsibility. Okay? So I hope that helps. I am going to put this worksheet in the comments so that you are more than welcome to grab it. I also have a worksheet that I just made on the weekend about saving. So that one is so that you can save without feeling deprived and spend without feeling guilty. So I'm going to put the link to that below as well. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments, and I will see you next time. See you.